The house is built in 1861, so it sort of goes through the entire history of the war. The last Bellamy died in that house in 1946. So they all, the heirs inherited and then they kept the house. At that point, family fortunes had diminished quite a bit. And as soon as that last family member died, the house went into a steady decline, which lasted beyond the fire that happened there in 1972, all the way up to the late 80s. The family tried to fix it up, and they did as much as they could do, and they saved the building and saved the slave building and all that. Then they got to the late 80s, and they decided that they'd taken it about as far as they could go, so they gave it to Preservation North Carolina, which is a state organization which essentially fixes up old wrecked buildings with historic significance all over the state. And they've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these over like 75 years of existence. This one, the Bellamy, is the one that group kept. They kept it as a museum, say community hub again, with that in mind, and didn't find somebody else to restore it and fix it. They restored it and fixed it. And so they kept it as exactly that. They wanted to use it as, say, for preservation, education, architectural, and of course the big social history element, which is what we talk about all the time. The idea was to make it a museum in a house, which means you can put other things in the house, like exhibits and whatnot, and concerts, anything like that you want to do. And also to make it a community hub. So have people, locals and tourists and whoever, come in and see the place and experience it in different ways. I've heard it phrased as, you get people to come in and take the tour the first time, how do you get them to come back the second time to a house museum? Which is always an important question for a building like that, or a site like that. So the second thing that we do, or many of the things we do, involve school kids taking tours, tourists who come through town and then we do jazz concerts or parlor concerts, or we do wine festivals, or we do dinner parties in there, or things like that. We have African American History Days, we have family fun days where last time we had 1,700 people come through and do pony rides, and an environmental day because old technology and architecture like that comes around as new tech again. And so we talk about how that is sort of exhibited in that house. And then we have art exhibits in the house as well. So we do about 65 different events a year of different kinds on top of the tours that we give. And so you can experience all that, and that's how we get people to keep coming back and keep seeing the place in a new light all the time. Now we can actually give a more accurate assessment of what life was like for an urban slave on that site. 1859 is when that building was built. It's right next to the main house. So the way we sort of phrase the whole place, the message we want people to leave with is something about the life of two groups of people on a particular site. You've got the rich white planter elite and the enslaved African Americans side by side, one owning the other, one working for the other. And it's finished in 1861, and then there's the history through the Civil War to 1865. So during that period of time, everything for all those people completely changes. One group is freed and does not live there anymore. The other group has to flee, fights a war, loses everything, and then has to beg for their house back and come back and rearrange, the way that they lived. The way we interpret it is to look at the slave building, look at the main house, and talk about all the people who were there, because the building's, are only as important as the people who, and the stories we can tell about those people. And then look at it from the perspective of all those people who were on that site, because it's a small snapshot of what happened in the whole Southern history, American history, right at that moment, 1861, 1865. And you get that by being there.